Hello and welcome to another Doctor's Assistant 1 video, and today I'm taking a look at the Doctor Who Big Finish audio, The Hour of the Cybermen by Andrew Smith. So yeah, on the front you've got obviously the Doctor, played by Colin Baker, you've got the Cyber Leader, you've got this satellite, you've got some numbers there and some sort of tech-like design as well as Big Ben and the Thames, which doesn't seem to have any what's that all about? Full cast audio drama starring Colin Baker, and then some other stuff. Big Finish, We Love Stories, Doctor Who, Brand New Adventures, full cast audio drama, even. And then on the spine you've got the new sort of Jodie Whittaker style logo, as well as Hour of the Cybermen, 240, which means it's the 240th release in the monthly range. Little Big Finish logo there. And then on the back you've got the synopsis, as well as the cast list, and the runtime, which is 2 hours. And then you've got like a little pamphlet thing and the reversible cover, and then the discs. So, onto the story. It's the second episode in the Unit trilogy, which, if I didn't already say in my review for Heliax Rift, I will do a overview of said trilogy. I'll do an overview of the Unit trilogy at some point, and that, I'm not sure when. Well, I'll do it after I've obviously listened to Warlock's Cross, or maybe I'll re-listen to all three of the stories back to back, and then do the overview. I'm not sure, but either way, it will be done at some point. But yeah, so this release came out back in last year. It's a 2018 release, but it came out during the summertime when, if you recall, Britain was going. It had like a massive heat wave, and there was like, you know, a lot of stuff about like, you know, the water being quite sort of, you know, well, not quite running out of water, but, you know, being told that we had to use it wisely, not just waste it, sort of thing. And yeah, this episode very much plays into that, and that it's also notable for the fact that it's David Banks and who is the other person? David Banks and Mark Hardy. Their big return to Doctor Who as the Cyber Leader and Cyber Lieutenant from Earthshock. And that's one thing that I would say. This episode does very much feel like Earthshock meets, say, Terror of the Autons, you know, because you've got Unit and you've got the Cybermen. So I could imagine the third Doctor being in this story. It's very much a sort of spy, espionage-y, sort of big, sort of 007-y sort of story, you know. And that there's so many different, like, minute details and layers and things to consider in this story that I do definitely feel like I need to re-listen to this story. And that I can't remember everything from this story as well. And I know that a lot of the time I seem to make a big criticism about the endings to Big Finish audio stories, or even just Doctor Who stories generally, whether it's classic series or new series. But I think it's just mainly because my attention span at that point has sort of obviously been worn down and or is depleting and whatnot. So usually if I say in any of my reviews or anything that I started getting a bit bored towards the end, or that I couldn't remember things towards the end, that's probably why, because obviously my attention span's only so long. But yeah, Colin Baker is fantastic, as always, as the Doctor. He's firing on all cylinders. David Banks and Mark Hardy, was it? Anyway, they both give stellar performances as the Cyber Leader and the Cyber Lieutenant. They are absolutely phenomenal. And what links this to Heliax Rift is the fact that Unit are in this story, and that, you know, so, however, obviously, instead of having the 5th Doctor, we have the 6th Doctor here, and he's on Earth, and, yeah, all of the rivers and reservoirs and whatnot in Britain seem to have been dried out, and, no one knows why. There's just lots of baggage here, in some, well, not so much baggage, but world building, definitely. Like, you know, everything, every character, everything seems just so, as I say, multifaceted and layered, you know, with so much depth and detail that it really does make this story feel like a proper real event, like that happened in history. You know, it makes it feel more like fact over fiction, which is just brilliant writing on Andrew Smith's part. For example, like you know, the Doctor right at the beginning says, like, how long has this been going on for? And Unit says, oh, for like 4 weeks now, for like a month. And the Doctor's like, wait, what? This has been going on that long, and yet no one called me? Why? And yet then there's a reason. Or there's just so many different things that happen in this story, and that I don't want to spoil either, and all the side characters and the side cast or supporting cast are brilliantly performed as well, whether it be, as I say, David Banks, or the people who play other characters such as, let me just see here, such as Daniel Hopkins, and Reva, and you know, all the other characters are just really well performed. Kel, you know, as well. Reva and Kel are kind of a thing, or lovers, or were anyway. But yeah, and then it's just it's one of those stories where I feel like the less you know about this story, the better, because again, it's like basically it's like Earthshock meets Terror of the Autons, so it's Earthshock-esque in so much as it's got a big sort of plot reveal, and that I was like, oh my god, by the end of part 2, which is a brilliant cliffhanger. There's quite a bit of action as well in parts 2 and episodes 2, and a little bit in episode 1 as well. And it really does feel like the Cybermen are very much playing the long game, and the Doctor even says that, you know, they've been waiting for ages, you know, in the sort of shadows, as it were, for lack of a better term, and I think that makes them all the more creepier, sinister. You know, the idea that they, much like, say, just a laptop or a TV, because they are machines, could just be turned off, and then they could just be, you know, for lack of a better term, docile or dormant, and then they could activate, and then they could start every plan, or their massive plan, into motion, you know, because that, I think, is a big strength of their character in so much as it makes it distressing for the listener or viewer, in terms of the fact that the good guys don't know when the bad guys are obviously going to strike. In the case of the good guys unit, you know, and they all seem quite kitted out with this new sort of computer-based lab thing, and that, and then there's, as I say, these satellites and that, and then the Cybermen have got, like, it's very tit for tat, like, for every move unit makes, the Cybermen are always one step ahead of them, and that, and are ready to counter it, you know. And you know, you have brilliant things along the lines of, like, you know, as I say, the cyber leader being like, you know, but the weakness of human organic life is their emotions and their flesh. Doctor, we meet again. Excellent. You know, and then you've got the original sort of very Earthshock-esque sounds of the guns, as well as just the music here is phenomenal, as well as the sound design as well, which I'd hope by the 240th try they'd get it right, which they'd knock it out of the park in terms of sound design as well as music, you know. Maybe just tightening up the ending, maybe, as well as maybe just pacing out some of the action maybe a bit more. I don't know, I mean, or having, just a little bit less dialogue maybe. I don't know, like, it feels like it keeps just going up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and then it just sort of plateaus, you know, it just sort of goes, not, for lack of a better term, nowhere. I don't know, and I can't even really remember off the top of my head how the Doctor gets out of the situation. However, however, one of the things that he does is very clever in how he basically gets the attention of UNIT to signal where he is, because he's obviously captured by the Cybermen, but he can't obviously like specifically do anything like technology wise to signal the UNIT and that. But what he does do is very clever, and that, and yeah, there are a handful of times that I found it a little bit tricky to visualize in my head what was going on at times, but that's just me maybe. But then vice versa, there were times that I could picture things clear as day, like the dryness of the Thames, you know, because it's not got any water, or the fact that, you know, like a certain bit where one of the people in the story is getting tortured. I pictured that quite clearly, and it was quite horrific. And then, you know, like stuff with the like spaceship as well. There's the cyber spaceship as well, which I pictured really well as and that when it like sort of emerges from where it was all along. You know, again, there are just lots of different twists and turns in this story that I don't want to ruin, because it's best going into this story as blind as possible and being like, oh my god, like I was when a certain thing happens, as I say in the end of part 2. So yeah, Hour of the Cybermen, I'd love to give it and I will, 10 out of 10. It's a really good, bloody good Cyberman story, you know. You've got the likes of David Banks, you've got Colin Baker on top form, you've got a really interesting side characters as well. I feel like the Doctor in this story doesn't particularly have one main companion, or at least the person that you do think might be the main companion in the beginning isn't the main companion, and then he has like a bit of a more main companion towards the end. It's kind of odd. It almost feels like, as I say, kind of like Hellbent-ish. Well, not even Hellbent. It definitely feels more, in terms of companion-wise, it feels more like The Deadly Assassin, but with Colin Baker. But in terms of the companion dynamic, or companion sort of aspect of the story, obviously it's very much Earthshock, but for the Sixth Doctor and that, and it's much better than Attack of the Cybermen. I mean, it's not the worst. Attack of the Cybermen's not the worst story ever, but this is far superior. So yeah, I'd give Hour of the Cybermen a well-earned 10 out of 10. Thanks for watching, comment, rate, and subscribe.